you catch yourself clenching your jaw throughout the day? Are you someone who is always sucking in your stomach, holding tension through your body? Have you been doing Kegels, but you're still leaking, feeling pressure, and dealing with symptoms? Most women think the answer is to make their pelvic floor tighter. But that's actually one of the biggest misconceptions I hear. Today, I want to explain to you why your pelvic floor does not need to be tighter. It needs to function better. And I see this a lot and I hear this a lot. I want a tight pelvic floor. No, you don't. You definitely do not want a tight pelvic floor. So there are two common ways your pelvic floor can become dysfunctional. Both cause symptoms and both will eventually need strength training, but they don't get there the same way. So this is the analogy that I love to use. It's a visual analogy and actually one that relates back to your child years and nursery rhymes. I think this is a nursery rhyme. However, I could be wrong. But it's the Goldilocks analogy. So imagine that your pelvic floor is like a hammock. And for those of you on YouTube, I have Lucy, my pelvic floor pelvis model right here. So you can see that your pelvic floor looks like a hammock. It inserts into your pubic bone, your sits bones, and your tailbone. So your pelvic floor is 3 layers of muscle. I almost lost my pelvis there. So it acts like a hammock. So you can even just visualize a hammock in your head. So it supports your bladder, your uterus, and your bowels. So now we're going to think of, we have Goldilocks, we have these 3 hammocks, and she's going to try each hammock. So hammock number 1. So she sits in hammock number 1. It's too loose. She sinks right through. There's not enough support. So this is an underactive pelvic floor, also called a hypotonic pelvic floor. So this is underactive. So it's too loose. She sinks right to the bottom and there's no support. Then we have hammock number 2. So she makes her way to hammock number 2. She lies down in hammock number 2. I don't know if I had Goldilocks lying down in hammock 1, but anyway, she lied down. She didn't sit down. She lied down. I haven't been in a hammock in a long time, as you can tell. You lie down in a hammock, and I can actually really use a hammock right now. So hammock number 2, it's pulled way too tight. She lies down, it's uncomfortable, it doesn't move, it has no give. So this is a overactive pelvic floor. So this is, in other terms, it's called a hypertonic pelvic floor. And then she finds hammock number 3. She lies down in hammock number 3. It's just right. It's supportive. It moves when it needs to. It relaxes when it needs to. It springs back up when it needs to. That's what we're aiming for. Not tighter, more functional. So both hyper and hypo pelvic floor muscles they're weak. It's just how you're going to train them. So you might have a hypertonic pelvic floor. So your pelvic floor might be holding too much tension. So here are ways that you can look for signs of tension. And when I explain about the integrity of your pelvic floor muscles, when I talk about tension, a lot of women they're like, oh my, I didn't realize that your pelvic floor could be too tight. So let's look for signs of tension. So this is going to be your tip number 1. So a lot of women don't realize that they're holding tension all day. And they certainly don't realize that that tension is also held in the pelvic floor muscles. So examples would be if you're jaw clenching, if you're bum gripping, if you're always sucking in your stomach. Maybe your breathing patterns are shallow breathing, chest breathing. You're feeling like you're on all day and you're rushing through everything. So that could also be like a personality thing. You're always on to the next, go, 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 go. Never, ever have time to relax. Symptoms are leaking, that urgency, constipation is big too, because there's Holding a lot of tension there can cause constipation. Painful sex is another symptom as well. Difficulty relaxing the pelvic floor to go pee. And we just had our last episode was about rushing the pee and about why rushing pee can cause a lot of tension in the pelvic floor muscles. So that was our last episode. I think that was so we're on episode number 22. So that was episode 21. So I invite you to listen to that episode. And also pain and pelvic pressure. So maybe you feel pressure in your vagina and pain. It could also be pain in your hips, in your low back as well can show up too. So I actually see a hypertonic pelvic floor in a lot of women who are type A personalities. They're high stress. Even in women who exercise regularly or who are athletes, they're really good at bracing and holding everything in. And that sometimes can contribute to your pelvic floor not knowing how to relax. So if any of those symptoms or any of those examples relate to you, then you could be holding tension in your pelvic floor muscles. So tip number 2, your pelvic floor is a part of a core system. So it doesn't work alone. It's connected to your diaphragm, your transverse abdominis, so your deep abdominal muscles, as well as your back muscles called your multifidus. So if you're stressed and holding your breath, chest breathing, so the way you sit or stand, you're always rounded shoulders, feeling tight and tense. So sometimes that breath then becomes more shallow breathing, chest breathing, or your diaphragm is holding tension. That's another thing that's often overlooked. We don't want to just look at the pelvic floor. We want to look at those other supporting muscles. So your diaphragm being your breathing muscle. So you could be holding tension in your diaphragm, and that could also be related to how you stand, how you sit. So the rounded shoulders, tight chest. So your pelvic floor will respond to the tension that you hold. So that's why not just looking at the pelvic floor muscles, we need to look at the system as a whole. So where are there other places in your body that you could be holding tension? That also could be your jaw, bum gripping. So just being mindful that we're not just looking at the pelvic floor. Where are other areas that you're holding tension? If you have a hard time taking a deep diaphragmatic breath in, if it's challenging for you to do that, then there's tightness in the diaphragm, and therefore that tightness will also show up in the pelvic floor muscles because your diaphragm and your pelvic floor work together. So if there is tension and tightness, then we're not going to get that nice little flow of breath. So therefore, over time, we're going to see that tension show up. And then tip number 3 to start to notice and create awareness is, and also if you think, okay, I have tightness, definitely have tension in my pelvic floor, then we need to release before we strengthen. So we have to learn how to let go and release those muscles, because any muscle in your body really, if it is holding a lot of tension, you're not going to be able to strengthen that muscle because it's already fatigued, it's overworked. So we need to learn how to release those muscles to be able to start strength training. That's why stretching and releasing is so important. So never ever skip that step in a workout. Always make sure you're making time to release and stretch your muscles. So it's not about more squeezing. One thing, misconception too, is Kegels are not taught properly. A lot of times it's taught squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. There's never any emphasis on you gotta contract and relax the muscles. So learning how to let go. So once they can learn how to let go, and then you can start to build strength on top of that. So it could be breathing, learning how to breathe properly. That's one thing, learning how to do that diaphragmatic breathing that's going to help to calm the nervous system. Another thing is using different types of release exercises and stretching to actually release those muscles. Happy baby's a good one. Child's pose is good. There's also, I have some great release work that you use with a massage ball to release the muscles as well. So just actually taking time to release and learn how to relax those muscles. So let's take an action step right now. And what I want you to do is we're going to take 3 deep breaths. And yes, I said every episode, I'm definitely going to reference breathing. So just put your hands around your rib cage. So your fingers are in front of your ribs. And I don't know if everyone can see me on YouTube, fingers in front and your thumb in the back. So you're just putting your hands around your rib cage. Okay. I want you to take a nice deep breath in. Breathe into the rib cage. Feel your hands expand on that inhale, and also feel that thumb expand as well. So you're inhaling, feel the belly soften, feel the rib cage expand. And then at this moment, your pelvic floor is gently relaxing as you inhale. Okay. Then you're going to take a nice exhale through the mouth. Feel the rib cage contract in, the belly just pulls in a little bit. And that's when you're getting that tiny little lift of the pelvic floor. We're going to inhale again, really focus down onto your pelvic floor, focus between your sits bones, your pubic bone and your tailbone, create that space. Really think about blossoming, creating that space. And then you're going to gently exhale. We're going to do that one more time. Big deep breath in, create that space. Learning to relax the muscles, let go. Good. So that diaphragm's contracting down, the pelvic floor is lowering and lengthening on that inhale. And then we're going to gently exhale as we get that nice lift. Good. All right. So this is what you can do just to even start today. Start to really focus on the breathing. Do it lying down, do it on the toilet, do it while you're standing, but just try to connect with relaxing and letting go. In closing, if you're still like, if you're feeling like, hey, you know what? I think I'm hyperactive. But I just want to be sure, because it is good to be sure, then go make an appointment with a pelvic floor physiotherapist. They can certainly assess you to give you a better answer to if there is tension in your pelvic floor muscles, or if maybe they're too lax. So great place to start as well is make an appointment with your pelvic floor physiotherapist. You can also reach out to me. I'm super happy to support you as well. So remember, we don't want a pelvic floor that is constantly tight. Get rid of saying tight. You don't want a tight pelvic floor. You also don't want one that is too loose either. You want a pelvic floor that is functional. It knows when to contract. It knows when to relax. And it knows how to work with the rest of your core. If this episode made you realize that you might be holding more tension than you thought, go back and listen to my episodes on breath holding and jaw and bum clenching, rushing your pee. I have so many episodes before this one that definitely give you a better understanding of those little habits that you might be doing that are causing the tension. They all connect together. And like I said, just help you get that better understanding. So thank you so much for listening. Be sure to send this to a friend, a family member. Just keep yourself educated with pelvic floor health and wellness. That's what I'm here for. That's what Potty Talks is here for. We have a new episode every Tuesday. So stay tuned for next week. And thanks so much again for listening. Bye.